like you said there about self-isolation, like we say these words, right? Like self-isolation. My experience of that, and that's what we all do. We minimize it. We dilute its true nature. I was walking around the planet like a fucking completely hollowed out, marrowless fucking void of an individual. Because I actually believed, not just thought, believed that I was the only human being on earth that felt this way. Because it removes you from yourself. You don't know who the fuck you are, where you are, why you are. The concept of why, that whole I am, you got a broken finger, I am going to go to the fucking doctors because I am in pain. There's no place to locate this thing that's inside of me, and yet it's fucking everywhere.
I bought Frankie a coffee, and honestly, it just felt right. Frankie's pod has been such a comfort, something I look forward to every week. You can really feel the heart that goes into every episode. Supporting it through Buy Me a Coffee isn't just about the coffee. It helps cover the hosting, the editing, the software, all the behind-the-scenes stuff that makes the podcast possible. If Frankie's pod means something to you too, I'd really encourage you to chip in. It's a small thing, but it goes a long way. Just head to buymeacoffee.com/frankie'spod. Trust me, it's worth it.
Fire they can't hide, marching through the past with pride. Frankie's pod is the place to confide. Frankie's pod, uncork the soul, hear the voices, feel it roll. Veteran hearts, beating strong. One more story, one more song. Frankie's pod, yeah. Uncooking the unforgettable.
Hi, welcome back to the podcast. Tonight I'm talking to Steve Beedie. Steve's a former soldier, author, and an ambassador for mental health. Steve joined the Royal Signals in 1997, and this is his story, more or less. Hi, Steve, how are you doing?
I'm sorry, mate. That was a wicked short intro.
I normally write them all down beforehand and all that, but I can't even read my own fucking handwriting. Right, so it's the same for you as for everybody else, and it's 5 questions, which is, where did you grow up? Why did you join the military? What was it like? Why did you leave? And what have you done since? And I know you've got a good story to tell, so if you just want to crack on and give us some background of what it was like growing up and why you joined the military.
Well, where I grew up, I say grew up, I was fucking dragged up. It's actually a really beautiful town. It's called Banff. It's in the northeast of Scotland. So basically, if you've got Aberdeen, it's about 50 miles north, right on the Murrayfirth coast, and it's an absolutely stunning fishing village. But when I grew up there in the 80s, it was alive with fishing vessels. They were still landing the fish in the town, never mind the big cities or out and about. And yeah, it was bustling. Oil was just, I was a kid obviously, but oil was booming. Fishing was just at its peak. And I guess I do romanticize it a little bit, but it was worthy of that. There's a lot of nostalgia there, but it's a stunning little place. It was like it was like the Goonies in Scotland. Just a bunch of Hally-racket boys beating the fuck out of each other. Rough fishing village boys, it was really good there. I loved it.
But nothing malicious with that. I mean, I've spoken to some of the guys from Scotland who, grew up in the 80s and early 90s. And I mean, like places like Glasgow and parts of Edinburgh. I mean, I was shocked at parts of Edinburgh.
Yeah.
We're rough and bad.
Oh no, it was fucking savage, mate. I mean, it was brutal. Every week we would have to have we were kids. We would have an organised scrap just to determine who was the toughest kid that week. This was a weekly occurrence. That was just normal for us. And whoever got that title that week, kind of got a bit of respect. But it got it got wild as we got older because where I lived, we were Banff, separated by an old bridge. It still stands today, and a stone bridge. The next town is Macduff. Two fishing villages competing against each other. Two different primary schools, two different, just kind of like parts of like this very tiny community, and we would knock fuck out of each other. But we would have fights with the outlying towns. Turriff was our kind of rival. Turriff and Bucky, we were all rivals. We would get into buses and go to the town. Now we were in the pubs. I think we started drinking when we were about 13 in the pubs. Now, when you think about that now, 13-year-olds now are like screaming at their mums and dads for the next Xbox or PlayStation, the next fucking skin on their Minecraft. Our fucking parents couldn't find us.
No.
Our parents were getting shit-faced drunk, and we'd be in the boozer and you'd see like your mate's mum and she'd be like, "Hello, bastards," like, "Don't tell anyone." We were into playing darts and stuff, but it was, like that kind of childhood. Me in school just did not mix.
You know what? You've just brought back memories of me. There used to be a pub in Hartlepool called the Square Ring. I don't even know if it's still there anymore. But they were renowned for letting underage in. And I'd go in there and like, someone had just shot, "Your brother's just walked in." I'd be fucking hiding behind the bar. And he'd just come round, pick me up. I said, what are you doing here? And end up buying me a pint. And then he'd try all the tricks going on so you wouldn't smell a beer. Like putting fucking vinegar on bread and stuff like that. And it never worked. Everybody knew where you'd been. Some of the pubs we used to hide from the teachers. And they just had a blind eye type of thing. We weren't being malicious or nasty, or we were just kids fucking experimenting with stuff, you know what I mean? But like from what you say about the age of 14, 15 onwards, like trying to sneak into pubs and stuff like that, it was part of growing up then, really.
Oh, definitely. And I don't look back on it as I took some hidings when I was a kid, I gave some hidings, but I took a lot of hidings. But none of us were cruel. Not really cruel, we were just rough kids. We all still know each other now. And but that's just how it was, And it's weird because we all speak as fathers, and now and again when we see each other, like how different our boys are, or our kids have been, like how we have to be as fathers, and it's like quite hard having to be like this, a gentler version of who you are inside, because one, you don't want your kids to grow up in a violent environment. Nobody wants that. But at the same time, I think that background, that kind of childhood, it does kind of prepare you for the world a little bit. Because you can have the kindest, safest space, all the wonders of, it's nice and everything's cozy and wonderful. And then you leave school, you leave home, and the world's a bastard. The world will fucking kick you to the curb. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, black or white, brown, fucking Indian, Chinese. It does not give a fuck if you're whatever you call yourself. It will treat all of us with the same level of, we don't give a fuck about you.
Yeah.
And I like that because it's fucking a level playing field. But the childhood that I had, it did prepare me for that. Like the first 12 years of my life, I didn't have a father. So that was the original wound. That was the first kind of, because I could see everyone else had a dad, and I'm like, and this was the 80s, it wasn't quite as accepted as it is now. Not that it should be or it is, but it wasn't as common, The nuclear family was a more prevalent thing back then. Now we've got, blended families, single parents, shared households, and all manner of shit. But back then, man, all my pals.
I mean, it's a societal change now.
Massively, yeah.
And whether it's to us, it's probably, like we like you just said there, I'd rather it was as it was. But things do change, and fucking hell, if we went back to let's say the 30s, fucking hell, or even we'll be in a workhouse when we're fucking 7-year-olds, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm glad things have changed.
Yeah, I mean,
they're changing, and in certain respects, I think the world as a whole hasn't. we can try and change things, let's say in the UK, for societal norm and things like that. But in reality, like you say there, the world's there to kick your ass, and people don't give a toss. You know, they don't. They might say it, right? They might say, "Oh, we've got to do this, and we've got to look after this, this lot of protected people, and this, that, and the other." But in reality, deep down, people are bothered about themselves and their own families, and they don't give a toss about other people and other communities and stuff like that. You know, I'm not saying that's everyone, but I'm just generalizing. So you have got to be tough. If you're, like you say, you leave school from like being pampered, let's say, and going into the wild, going into the, you know, like I did. I was quite pampered when I was a kid. I was quite spoiled. My brothers and that weren't, but I was a baby. So when I went and joined the army, it was fucking right shock to me. You know, somebody shouted at me. I was like, "Fuck's sake, shouting up? What have I done?" You know. But you're right. The world is a tough, rough place, and I think you're right. We should try and instill a bit more life into our children, but you have to be really careful because there's too many people on there jumping too many brackets and woe is me, look at me, I'm this, that, and the other. When half the time you're just like, well, you're not. Just fucking be yourself and just get on with it. You know.
No.
Sorry to interrupt you there. Sorry.
No, man. Here, listen. Don't be apologising, man. Let this thing flow as it needs to, man. You know, these conversations have a way of, you know, they just kind of unravel.
Yeah, I just talk bollocks.
But talking bollocks is what it's about. You know, you got
Yeah.
two blokes in here talking about, you know, kind of similar shared kind of backgrounds, and I think it, you know, like, so you were saying there that you know, a lot of people don't care, and I know you probably meant, like, from what I can gather, there's a lot of like governmental kind of things, and I'm not getting into politics, like, but the people that should be taking care of us or leading us, I should say, they just don't. They're self-serving fucking pieces of shit. I think at a community level, people want to do good, and they've tried, but they've been fucked over. So they retreat back to the safe zone, and it leaves them cynical. The issue I have there is, like, that's where they're, because I've had that, and I know many people have. You just get beat and beat and beat, and it's easy to just go, fuck this shit, it's too hard. The real change happens is when you realize that that's just part of the fucking journey. That's going to continue, and the level of what that will be will get even worse. Prime example, right? I'll give an example of something I think, well, it matters to me. The reason it matters to me is that when I grew up without a dad, at an early age, I've always been kind of switched on to, like, situational awareness. You know, like this is shit. My dad doesn't love me, doesn't want me. And it was played out harder for me because he only lived a mile away. He lived in Macduff, I was in Banff. So I had a daily reminder of he is deciding, he's choosing not to want me. He could walk every day and say, look, I'm your dad. You know, not a card, not a chat, not a phone call, nothing, not a lick of money. And I was like, right, instead of, oh, why me? I got that, like, fuck you. I'm going to build a life. You know, later on, I discovered when I was about 26, I forgave him when I was 26. Which was for me mostly, but that was I was 25 when I had a son, I discovered, holy shit, this is what it feels like. I always knew that it would feel great, but the feeling was just fucking overwhelming. Like, it's the greatest thing I've ever done in my life. My son is the joy of my life. But I remember looking at him and thinking, fuck, this is what a man must have felt when he looked at me, and he's decided to walk away from this precious little beautiful thing. And I remember going, fuck, I haven't missed out. He's fucking missed out on a son. My child, when he was just a couple of days old, and I remember looking at him in a little thing, and I was like, holy fuck. And the fucking feeling hit me, and I went, all these years, I'm thinking I'd missed out on a father. He'd missed out on a son. And it was the weirdest feeling, like being, it was like fresh air coming through me, and I went, fucking hell, isn't that something? Now, I was only 26 when that happened, but the first 12 years of my life when I didn't have a dad, I was lucky enough that I actually ended up having a stepfather. I never called him stepdad, but I called him dad in the end. X all the signals. ex-clandestine special forces, fucking an absolute character of a man. Like that couldn't have, somebody plucked him for me, you know.
Yeah.
It was just fucking meant to be. But I remember looking for father type figures, that archetypal father figures. I found it in comics, movies, action hero type figures, strength, men of strength and honor. And yes, they were on fucking film, your Arnie's, your Arnold, your Stallone's. Like, Rocky for me was huge. But there was one character above all else that just fucking shone a light for me on, like, I want to be a good version of the story that I make myself to be. And it sounds weird, but it was Superman and it was Clark Kent. And that was the Christopher Reeve era, you know?
I mean, that doesn't sound weird
No, but
because
like, but it's interesting and it's a long way to get to a point like where we're living in a time where people, ordinary folk, whether they're, because I'm a council estate kid, um, fuck man, I grew up with like days where there was no food in the house. Electricity was cut off for like fucking a week at a time. I'm cooking toast on the fireplace, fucking coal fire. Everything was an adventure. So the army to me was like, this is fucking, I'm used to this shit. But we all complain about how shit things are and like it's never happened. It only ever happens to people like us. And look at Henry Cavill. He's a fucking wonderful gentleman, great actor. He's been adorned with some wonderful roles, and the best directors want to work with him. Your Guy Ritchie's and all that kind of stuff. And he left The Witcher to reenact his next level of Superman, and everyone's like, "Fucking come on!" And he gets fucked over. Aye,
yeah,
royally fucked over. Now that was like at the point, because I'm a geek, right? I'm a fucking full-on geek. That's at the point where he's able to kind of step into like the big version of his story arc, and everyone's like, "This is so good." And then James Gunn just comes in and fucks him over, and you're like, "What the fuck? What did he do?" He moved on to the next thing. He didn't complain. He didn't moan or bitch about it. He just went, right, well, I've dropped The Witcher to do Superman. They've whipped Superman away from me. I'm going to go and do Warhammer 40 fucking thousand. And I thought,
yeah,
I fucking love this guy. That to me is leadership of self,
yeah.
self-reliance. And that more than anything is that internal fucking dialogue, which too many people are like, well, what are you going to do for me? And when are you going to change things? And when are you going to be a better husband, a better parent, a better son, a better lover, a better whatever? They're not asking themselves, like, how can I do better, regardless of what happens here? It's hard shit to get to.
Yeah,
But once you
yeah,
do
it
get
really
to
is.
it, but once you do even take that first tiny few steps, and it sounds like I'm preaching, but I'm not, because this is
No,
hard level shit, man. Like I had that. So, like for real life example, the first time I actually sat with myself and took an inventory, um, I woke up in a prison cell in Durham. The night before, I'd knocked fuck out of about fucking 5 or 6 policemen. I got maced. They were going to set the dogs on me, and that's when I gave up because I was like, I'm not hitting a dog. And I was best man at a wedding. I was best man at a
that
wedding
day.
that night, yeah.
Yeah,
So I'd just done 4 tours of duty. I'd been out the army about a year or so, and I was fucking raining fire. Um, I I I tried to take my own life a few times.
yeah.
I like serious times. Fucking, I'd self harmed, which was a cry for help, but I wasn't getting the help. Um, and I'm kind of jumping. I'm jumping through timelines here, but um, I just remember waking up in that fucking prison cell after trying an overdose. I'd let go of the wheel of my car. I was doing 55 on the A303 from, what do you call it, fucking Bulford to Amesbury because I was going to the shop. And I was just like, oh, fucking, I can't put up with this shit in here anymore. I want this noise off. I want the lights out. I just let go. And I remember, like, peace, just like, oh, I just want this shit to be done. Um, Obviously, it didn't. I fucking had to drive the car back like that because I'd smashed it into the fucking ravine. And but I remember waking up.
It's amazing, how many people have that thought, that the driving one.
Yeah,
I did. Again, sorry to interrupt, but I did, and the only thing that stopped me doing it was I haven't got any luck, so I knew I'd survive it. Write my car off, my insurance would go up, and I'd be in pain. So that was me,
That's it.
that was me internal monologue telling me fucking
Why
stop
aren't you
it.
committing suicide anymore, Frankie? Ah, it's for California insurance, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking hell.
That's proper squaddy shit, innit? Like, it's fucking ball out with
Can't
the
afford
insurance
it.
to write the car. What? Not because
But
you
no,
don't want to
it's
die, or you've got people that love you. Nah, fucking insurance, mate.
yeah. It's like you say though, like starting to talk to yourself, like the internal monologue. You've got to build that story within yourself, and it's fucking hard.
Oh, it's the hardest thing in the world, mate. Oh,
Because who's the first person who's going to argue with you? Is yourself.
mate.
You know, I
Yeah.
mean, I haven't got fucking split personality, but what I found last year is I was starting to develop this thing where I'd start thinking of bad shit, and then there's something else in my brain would go, "No, you've left the gas on."
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
everyone's listened to this podcast for the last 50 of them. I've heard this story so many times, they'll be bored shitless. But that's what was happening with me. I was like, "Oh God, it's fucking. Oh, I don't want to." Oh no, I haven't left the gas on. Yes, you have. You left the back door open, and I'd have to fucking go home and make sure I hadn't. But that was your brain, your internal, fucking survival or whatever, trying to save you, to stop you thinking of the bad things. But for you to sit and talk to yourself and say, right, this is that. This is what's fucking doing me head in here, and I need to fucking sort it out. That's quite an hard thing to do, and I don't think I've ever got to that bit yet. And a lot of people don't.
Yeah, I mean, I was. There's a lot of noise on the internet right now, so like we're out of the information age. We've gone into a new thing now, but we are drowning in information and we're starving
Yeah,
for wisdom. You know,
yeah,
and I sat in that prison cell and I woke up. It was by far. I know a lot of people talk big when they're out drinking, but you know what soldiers are like. This was a squaddy wedding, right? I hadn't had a drink for a little while, and just the war just fucking it just erupted out of me. And I'd been married for about three years at this point, and she's seen the worst of it. Like I've been wrecking the house and smashing the place up, and I even arrested myself a few times. I phoned the police on me a few times, just come and fucking pick me up because I'm going to tear the fuck out of it. Whatever the fuck is in front of me. Never lifted a hand to my ex-wife or anything, but like going through walls and doors and fucking objects getting launched, it was just horrible. And I openly admit, like, and this is a part like taking inventory, which took years, by the way, because every layer opened up another one, and then I learned new things. I'm like, fuck, is that? Do I have that? Like admitting that I was, like part of my playing my part in domestic violence. I'm like, fuck, that just makes me feel like an awful human being. But admitting it and saying, well, why? Why was I behaving like that? It's because they took a young kid from a broken background, gave him a couple of a year's training, and chucked him into a war zone at 18. The fuck did they think was going to happen? You know?
and it's the way. I mean, right? We'll step back a bit, right? So you're coming up to join the army, right? But
I told you we're going through timelines.
no, it's
I get
it's
told
absolutely
to
fine,
go on
mate.
tangents. I can't help it.
But fucking hell, I'm the worst for it. I won't go into it. But if I watch a movie,
Yeah.
on my computer. I'm watching a movie. I've got another movie there, like
Really?
on the same screen. I'll be watching that one, and my mind will wander. So I'll pause that and start on that one, and then pause that and play a game, and then start back on that again. I can't. I don't know. Maybe I've got fucking ADHD or something. I don't know. I can't
It's.
concentrate
I mean,
on
I'm
one
not.
thing.
I'm not. I'm not an expert in these things, but like what I could ascertain from that is that there's a lot of you're searching for a lot of dopamine there. Um,
Yeah,
which is, you're
and I'm
looking
not
for.
allowed X-Stamster, so yeah, I'm not getting it right.
That's a different podcast, Frankie.
Right. So I mean, what you touched on there is about going into training, and a year later, all of a sudden you're in combat, or you're in a situation where you can be like that. The training is designed to break you down, build you up, make you into a fighting soldier. Some of the conversations I've had on this podcast before go on about what we touched on earlier about the type of people that yourself coming from a council estate and stuff like that. They're the people we want in the army.
I
Right.
didn't want to leave. That
Yeah.
was my dream. Most people have a dream of being a fucking, someone famous or whatever. Like, there's a photograph of me at 12 years old. I was 11 actually, and I tell the story in a TED talk where I needed to escape my town. I needed out because I had this vision of like there's more. I was suffocating in that small town.
Mm.
Anyway, the Argyll and Southern Highlanders came to the youth club on that Friday. They'd set up an assault course, and when I walked in there, I was like, "Oh fucking come on!" And I ran round it 3 times, like fucking so much enthusiasm. And I remember when I got to the end, the third one, there was a lad there, and he was away for a fucking smoke, taking his fucking packet of Lambert and Butler out his fucking fags, and he just looked at me and he went, "All right, son." I was like, he had a presence about him, and I
Yeah.
remember going, "Yeah, that's what I want to be. I want to be a fucking soldier." It was the first time I'd actually seen a soldier in real life. The assault course, the excitement, but that's what they do. That's marketing. That's how they recruit from
Yeah.
depraved areas. But I didn't feel manipulated. I've never felt manipulated. I wanted that. Um, they didn't have to convince me, and the idea took form. It never left. 14, when everyone doing, when you did a week's work experience at school and
Yeah.
high school, they're all going to the banks, the joiners, the brickies. I went to Fort George, you know, and I'm like, all the teachers are like, "Steve, it's not normal to have an obsession like this." I was like, fuck off. Fucking, I remember even doing maths, my fucking standard grades, and I was like, who gives a fuck? I'm going to be a soldier. First thing they did, day one, they're all signals, give me a maths test. I was like, fuck, fuck. But for me, it was a fucking chosen dream,
Yeah.
and I got to live that fucking dream, So I was happy when I got in, more than
So what
happy.
was it like rocking up at the careers office then and that?
Oh, fucking hell. Uh, I remember when I first went in at Banff, that was back in the day when they had little white placards that they were written out by pen. There's a job at the local cleaners, there's a job at the
Yeah.
bank, there's a job. British Army, and I remember it because it said, British Army, no women need apply to this role, sexist, gender bias. And I was like, oh, that's fucking funny, that. I was just like, I remember it. Um, and then I picked it up and I made my thing. And I had one appointment in Banff, and then I had to go to Belmont Street, 9 Belmont Street, I think it is, in Aberdeen. And walked in there, and they're like, just opened up this cupboard, and there's a fucking silver bar at the top. And they're like, right, see how many pull ups you can do? I think I did 9. And the guy was like, oh, fucking most folk can't even do 2. And I was like, fucking hell. And I had my tests, I did my bar test. And then I went to Glencorse to do my mile and a half and all the other medicals and stuff. And that was it. I got in and I signed on the dotted line, 27th of March, 1997. Major John G. Lowe was there, and he took me through, and I signed on the line, and I'll never forget that fucking day. I was like, I remember it because he handed me a tenner, and he's,
It's a fiver in my day.
yeah, and he called it, take the Queen's shilling and all that stuff, and I just remember going, I'm a man, I am a man now. How naive I was,
Yeah.
and
So
but
why
yeah.
they're all signals then?
So originally, I wanted to be in the
Was that
Marines.
because of the stepfather? Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, originally I wanted to be in the Marines, and then I was told that the recruitment intake was about 9 months away, and I was like, I've waited so long, so fucking apprehensive. I was like,
Yeah.
right, paras, I want to jump out of planes. Like, you got to be 18, kid. And I was like, I'm gonna fucking wait until I'm 18. And then he went, well, how about fucking the Royal Signals? I was like, what the fuck is the Royal Signals? And he showed me all this fucking men with combat fucking backpacks running up hills and the classic fucking marketing intro. Or you'll get to do abseiling. And I was like, fucking hell. And then he went, but you have, it's a harder to get. And I was like, oh, it's harder. And he went, yeah. And I went, oh, I love a challenge. I'll take that. So I had a leaflet and I went home in the bus. I got the 305 for Aberdeen to Banff. And I got home. And my dad, who'd taken the job as my father, sat down with him and he went, signals, eh? I went, aye, why? He said, that was my old regiment. And I was like, no, wait. So it just felt right.
Yeah.
And obviously he didn't tell me too much because obviously what he had a career like because he was clandestine. And but I remember when I got in and I'd had a couple of tours under my belt, and I gained his respect in a different way, and we started to swap stories, and an interesting motherfucker, like.
It's funny you say about that, like waiting too long to join the Marines and that. That's exactly what happened to me. I mean, I wasn't going to join the Marines. Fuck that. I wanted to join the Air Corps. And loads of people I've spoke to from my era all wanted to join the Air Corps. I mean, I had pictures of helicopters on my wall, I knew the specs of a Lynx and stuff like that. I was a bit of a geek.
Yeah.
I wanted to join the Air Corps. Right, you'll have to wait till October.
Yeah.
It's now May. I want to get
forever.
in, and they just went, right, well, you can join the artillery. They're recruiting in June. I was like, right, okay. I'm just about to leave school because I was joining the junior leaders and I just wanted in. I wanted in the army. And I said, what's the artillery? I hadn't got a clue.
Yeah.
I said, what's that? And they said, right, read this book and look at this pamphlet. I thought, right, all they do is fucking like abseiling, walking over hills. They're on yachts and stuff like that. Fucking adventure training. That's all they showed me. I thought, that's fucking great. I'll do that.
I don't care what you
Little
play.
did I know.
Play it loud.
Yeah. Oh, when I got back home, my grandfather had died the year previous, and my grandmother was living with us at the time.
Okay.
And I went in to see her, and I says, I got in. And she goes, what did you get? And I said, I got in the artillery. And she was like, big smile on her face. She says, what? She goes, your granddad was in the artillery in the Second World War. And I was like, bloody hell, type of thing. So maybe these things happen for a reason. I don't know. Fate, if you want to call it that or whatever. So what was it like turning up a training in for you?
That was the furthest I'd ever been away from home. Because, like I said, growing up, we didn't have much. Turning up for training for me was just this fucking powerful adventure. A sense of I spoke about this a while ago. This is something I think that a lot of young men don't even. They're not only are they not aware of. They're not given the opportunity, which is a rite of passage. That was kind of my rite of passage, stepping out of the, like, proper cutting the umbilical cord from home.
Yeah.
Stepping out into my story and saying, like, this is for me. Away from home, whatever mistakes I'm going to make, they're mine now. They won't land back at my door. But I turned up at ATR Basenborn, and it was interesting, actually, because when you go through the camp, you get past the guard room, they've got headquarters in the front, and as the road traverses out on the left where the NAF is, there's a full-size replica of the Memphis Belle. I remember looking at it and going, fuck, Memphis Belle? I was like, I watched that on TV, like the film, It's like, and the NAF was called the Memphis Belle. I was like, that's fucking interesting. And about a month into training, it was a culture shock, like, it was, I loved it. I loved the excitement. But for me, the biggest obstacle wasn't because I was super fucking fit. I mean, like, I did cross country for school. I played sports. I did long jump, high jump, running for the police every fucking night. Just from dusk till dawn, I was outside. So the physical aspect for me wasn't hard. Crawling in mud and learning about weapon handling, all that stuff. I just loved it. What I didn't like was my very Doric accent. Fuck me, man, I struggled. Like, really struggled, like, because they couldn't understand a fucking word I said. Different now because I've lived all around the world. My accent's kind of shifted a wee bit. But, like, back fucking then, give it, I mean, man, God, I was just fucking a wee fucking Doric boy from Banff, Ken. Just fucking, that kind of scrappy kind of yapping golf. And they were like, fucking go into your mints and tatties. I was like, fucking hell, this is getting me brutal. So I had to adopt saying yes. Because I'd be like, aye, Corporal. He's like, it's fucking yes, insect. I was like, fucking hell. I was like, yes. I was like, this feels weird. I got as used to it. I was back home on leave. I think after about, I can't remember actually, because it was so far from me. I didn't go home. because I think it was week 5. You got a weekend off, and everybody's scarpered, and I stayed in a block, fucking bullying my boots and shit. And but I remember when we passed out and I went home and I went for a pint, and they're like, "Oh, Stevie fucking Rambo's home," blah blah blah. I was like, "Yeah," but and they're like, "Fucking yeah, check his fucking southern prick." And I was like, "Fuck's sake." I was getting slagged in the army, slagged back at him. I was like, "This is gonna be a fucking nightmare." But it was just part of the gig,
I mean, did you find the discipline a shock or anything like that?
The what, mate?
Discipline?
No, loved it.
No?
No, for me, like I said, I was one of those weird kids that my room was fucking immaculate. Even before I met my dad, I was weird like that. Like everything was fucking squared away, and I don't know why I was like that. I really have no idea. I think anything I got was precious to me, so I really took care of it, because I didn't get a lot. Like the first bike I ever got, I built from the scrap heap. It took me I think it was about 3 months to put the cunt together. That was back when you could go to the scrap heap and fucking take pieces out, And but my dad would come back from the rigs, and he always had a task for me. Like, right, when I go offshore for the 2 weeks, there's a wall over there. I want you to get the sledgehammer, beat the wall down, and take all the stones in the wheelbarrow and have them ready for me to be building. And I'm like, fucking no bother. I was like, fucking right. What I didn't know is the fucker was building me up as well. He was making me stronger. Like after a summer of doing that, I'm going back to school and I'm like, okay, I've got fucking.
I've got montage music now.
Yeah, yeah. Honest to God, like he was just an old school bloke, and he would teach me how to shoot, how to hunt, how to think, and I was just a child, so I only took on so much. But he would also inspect my room. His fucking standards were brutal, man. It's quite. There's stories. Even my pals know these stories. He was a fucking character. Like he passed away just about a year ago, and but honestly, if my mum and dad went out for a night out for a drink, and I was babysitting my sister, he would count the biscuit tin when he came in. Like honestly, I told you could have 2 biscuits. There's 7 missing here. I'm like, fucking hell. He would come off the rigs and he would wipe the light bulbs and stuff, and he'd be like, "There's dust on that fucking light bulb." He was tough. So by the time I got in the army, honestly, by the time I got in the army, all that shit it just didn't bother me.
So what was it like turning up at your first unit then? I mean, I ask everyone that as well because it's another, like you say, rite of passage. It's not even a rite of passage. It's scary.
I tell you, man, right? I'm getting at my WhatsApp here. So, where are we? So, is there any details there? No. Right. So, there's a WhatsApp group chat there. I'm not going to show anymore. But we've been friends for 20 plus years. That's the boys from my first unit. There's not a fucking day goes by we're not. There's a fucking. There's a poll on there just now of what they want me to dress like at the next reunion. I'm like, fuck's sake, boys. And they're like, fucking Beedie boys getting dressed up. I'm like, fucking hell. It's savage. Like, I turned up there. So I'd never been on a plane before. And 17 when I got posted to Germany, which kind of feels weird when you think back at, 17, like, it's not normal. But I don't know how I managed to get all these things to go this way, but it's exciting. So I remember being on a plane for Aberdeen. I think I was flying to Hanover. It was Hanover or Dusseldorf, I can't remember. But and I got picked up by the duty driver, drove into Krefeld. It's a fucking big city, and I was like, fucking hell, this is fucking, I'm in a plane, I'm in a new country. I'm like, holy fuck, it was so exciting. And Bradbury Barracks, pulled in, fucking gate came up. In we went, and he's like, right, just go to the fucking guard room over there. Drop me off in this shitty little bag, and I'm like, and then fucking the thing opened up, and he went, "The fuck do you want?" I was like, "Sig Beedie here, reporting, posted to my unit for 11 6." He's like, "All right, okay." And Jace Holt came and picked me up, and they walked me around to the block. I dumped my bag off, walked round to Delta Troop, and the troop sergeant, Bry Clark, looked like Desperate Dan, and he was for the central belt in Scotland, and he had a heavy set tone, and he didn't take no shite for no cunt. Beedie, fucking Beedie, you'll no be fucking late for fucking parade the morn, will you, Beedie? And I was like, oh fucking hell. That first 4 months was fucking hell for me. Torture. That man made my life a fucking living hell. To the point where I was like, I think I might have made the worst decision of my life being in the army. He fucking slagged me publicly, demoralised me in front of all the boys. Everything I did was dog shit. Better. And I'm like, fucking hell. And I remember one of the lads, won't say his name, he said, look, why are you struggling with this so much? I says, he's an absolute fucking cunt. Everything. And he went, so you know what to expect. He's a cunt. He's going to be a cunt tomorrow and the day after that for the next 3 years. So now you know, you don't have to worry about it. I was like, fucking hell, never thought of it like that. So I kind of got better. About a week or two after that, we had a new intake. I'm on parade, and he's like, Beedie, superb out fucking turnout this morning. I was like, the fuck? And he turned to me, mate, and he went, fucking piece of shit. Fuck. And I was like, right. Right. Fuck's sake. I was like, and I remember later on, we were on a parade, and he said something to me, because even though he was a cunt, you know, these standards stand for something, because they don't lose their value, you know. And he said, I hear all you fucking complaining at me, bitching and moaning like little bitches, little whiny little fucks. He said, why the fuck should I lower my standards down to your level when I can fucking raise you up to mine? I remember going, fuck. And he did.
That's fucking deep, that is, actually.
It's deep. It is very deep. But if you consider, right, he didn't harp on that message every week. He said it once. He lived it by how he behaved. And he said it once. And but for me, I was like, holy shit, that actually makes a lot of sense. Now, I want to not just meet his standard, I want to excel beyond it. So it siphoned into every fucking type of... That unit, when we turned it into 7 SIGs, right? We were part of a lot of major deployments. And scaly backs, every fucker knows we get ripped the fuck out of. My job, I was nowhere near headquarters or like intense and stuff like that. I was on a hilltop site with just me and one boy. For fucking 2-3 months at a time on our own, like fucking rig gypsies. You know, living on our own. No showers, no fucking meals, rationed out to the fucking hilt. We got so good at living out in the sticks that we ended up speaking to the locals while on tour as well to like do little deals, you know, like, here, we'll give you this, and if you get us extra stuff or bread or get us a bit of bacon or something, you know. I remember getting a bit of fucking gammon steak. We'd been in the field for about a month and a half, you know, and you had a bollock wash, you know, every other morning, brush your teeth, quick fucking bollock wash, you know, but you're stinking. You're absolutely fucking humming. And you're eating shit food all the time. You get to a point where like you can't even be fucking heating it. You're just eating it cold. And you're not shaving, you know. And I loved it. And I remember getting a fucking... One of the recce boys came up, and he was up for a resup, and he had a fucking lump of sourdough bread, or like local baked bread, that had been ripped in half. Somebody else got the other half, and he had this handful of cured ham or bacon or like gammon. Mate, I could have sucked his cock. I swear to fuck, man. I've never seen food that looks so fucking tasty in my life. And I was like, please tell me that's for us. He went, mate, you would not believe what I've had to go through to get this up here to you. He said, I've been fucking raped, pillaged, and fucking abused all the way up this fucking location. All the boys behind us, you know.
Yeah.
Mate, it was an operation, man, you know. We've been taking small arms fire I'm talking about Kosovo here. We've been taking small arms fire. Fucking shut up, Paddy. Shut the fuck up. I'm cutting. He's like, fucking Stevie, slice that thing like it's a fucking operating table. I want it perfect. And don't be fucking. And he's like, if I find yours are thicker than mine, he says, I will beat you to death. And I'm like, fuck. Beautiful times, man. You know, beautiful times. But the unit, these men are my family. There is nothing I wouldn't fucking do for them. Nothing.
I mean, I'd never really had any experience with Royal Signals until quite later on in my career. We used to have rear link sergeants. I mean, years back, we used to have a detachment with us.
Yeah.
For, in the artillery regiments, we'd have a detachment of Royal Signals, 2 or 3, maybe 4 guys. And then it'd just be down to the rear link sergeants later on. And I got dicked for an exercise. Now, my brother was in the Signals. He was Rebro. He was at Crefeld.
Your brother was in Crefeld?
Yeah, a long time ago. He got out early 90s. He got out. But I got dicked for this exercise where I was going to drive a 432.
Yeah.
And it was going to be the step up FDC, so the Fire Direction Centre for the artillery. And the FDC was going to be attached to Brigade, and Brigade was going to be attached to Div. And all of a sudden we rocked up with a spare 432. Nothing in the back, no radios, fuck all. Yeah. Right? Just me, a young lass who just turned up at the regiment, and the rear link sergeant. And we said, what we're doing is basically we're going to carry every fucker's bags. And we rocked up at this like divisional setup. And I was, what the actual fuck? Is this like a different army? Cookhouses and people on guard. And I was like, honestly, I'd never seen such an area like it. I'd never seen it. I'd worked in battle group headquarters, and that was about as high as I'd ever been. But when it went beyond that, like brigade headquarters, and that was like, what the fuck? It was like another world. It was just, it was mental, and the amount of people that were there. And I didn't get involved with any of the signally side of stuff and all like that. But later on, when Bowman came in, I got involved with a couple of the guys in Bathurst, and I think one of my claims to fame was when the Yeoman of Signals come round at the end of the. So we did the first Bowman exercise in Bathurst.
Yeah, Bowman. That was 2004,
2004, 5, yeah.
Yeah.
So we did the first Bowman exercise, and things had been set up wrong, and I'd gone out on advance party with our signal sergeant from the battery, and we basically got everything to work on in our battery, so the guns could talk to. Basically, someone had set the IP address wrong, but I rigged it out, and we got it working. But at the end of the exercise, when they come round to do the wipe everything, basically, so the Royal Signal guys would jump in the back of the wagon and they'd wipe everything. Yeah. And I remember this guy jumping in, and he looked at us, and he was like, "It's him," and I was like, "The fuck have I done?" And he shouted, and this Yeoman of Signals come out, big Welsh lad, fucking WO1. And he looked in the back, he went, "What? It's him?" "Yeah." He went, "You get out of here." I was like, "What the fuck have I done?" I got out, and he shook my hand. He went, "Well done." Said, "What have I done?" He says, "You're the first person to send porn over Bowman." And I was like,
yes. Ah, fucking hell. The Yaws man, they're fucking clever motherfuckers.
Yeah. I did my advanced 6 course at Lark Hill, and the in there, he was halfway through his. I'll always remember this. He was halfway through his electronic warfare lesson.
Yeah.
And somebody knocked on the door and said, "There's a phone call for you. You've been waiting for it." And he was like looked at all us he said, "Just wait there. Don't move. Keep quiet." Walked out, sorry. And then he walked back in about 10 minutes later and went, "Don't give a fuck. See you later." Walked out. Basically, he'd applied for a job, some big secret thing or whatever, and he'd been given it, and he was there. He had to go there and then. And he just left us. And we were like, "Chuff the fuck, that was boring as fuck."
EW is fucking dog shit, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, that leads us on then. So, you've got your unit, and we keep fucking digressing. That's what it's about. You've got your unit. What was your first tour?
It was Kosovo, 1999. I'd only just kind of turned 18 as well, because I turned 18 in Germany.
Yeah.
which is
I did as well.
it's weird, and it's weird, right? But yeah, Milosevic came on the TV not long after. You know, we were getting deployed. So we basically we went in. It was called ARC, Allied Rapid Reaction Corps. So we had air mobile vehicles. So we would get fucking dropped off by Hercules. Go in fucking super amphibious vehicles, and you know there were fucking hilltop locations. We had to go and fucking recce them, make sure they were fucking quality for sighting, because it was Ptarmigan, and they had what was called trunk nodes. So we'd have varying different kind of vehicles for the officers and stuff to conduct you know allied fucking group level communications, not America, Britain, Germany, Europe, all that kind of fucking shit. And then my job as a relay op, me and my mate, crewman, I was still an apprentice back then. I wasn't a crewman yet. I wasn't a detachment commander yet. Off we went to this location. We'd set up a communications link and hold it. Problem is that that's the trunk link. So it was constantly getting fucking coming under fire. You know, small arms fire. We're not talking full scale war here shit. But, you know, you're still getting fucking shot at by fucking, AKs, fucking, small arms grenades. And it wakes you up. It fucking wakes you up. You're like, all right, okay. This is not like it is in the TV. It's exciting the first time. Like, fucking hell, And then you're having to fucking duck and dive behind fucking tires, and you're digging trenches, and you're like, fucking digging trenches. I thought this was just basic training shit. This is not World War II. And you're digging fucking trenches, and you're like, fucking hell. And then you're having to actually use them, and you're like, I'm fucking really glad I dug this trench. But it was fucking challenging. And I found as well that the speed and the tempo that we did in training changed when we went on tour. It seemed to be a bit more calmer.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird. I don't know if that's, and I'm not talking about when you're in a contact. I'm talking about, just the tempo of stuff. Like, there's less shouting. It's not so much like Green Army shit. There's a bit more adult behaviour. Like, people
Well,
are
it's
just.
the old adage, isn't it? It's like train hard, fight easy.
It is. It's so true. I remember just seems to be a kind of a calmer nature, which, and I suppose, is a reflection of confidence in your ability and your skill. Good. I mean, this is back in the day. I was having this conversation with a mate the other night. There's only 70,000 strong in the British Army now. That's fucking terrifying. That is terrifying data. And I remember, I think when I was in, there was 130,000, I think, give or take. I might be off by a couple of thousand there. But even then, we were like, oh, numbers are low. I'm like, fucking hell. But it felt like there was a lot of good old leadership. Guys that had served in Bosnia, Ireland, the first Gulf War, men that had earned their fucking stripes, and they took a lot of hard-earned experience and they fucking passed it down willingly. So you felt like you were surrounded by the right quality of men, the good caliber of men that had their mettle. There's a saying, it's weird, we were having these conversations, I'm remembering all things. I know it's not military, but when ships were made of wood, men were made of steel.
I've heard that before. Yeah.
I know it's a Navy thing, but that kind of old, hard men pulling on ropes, fucking women pulling on ropes, hard down motherfuckers doing hard work, but it made them strong. And that's the life I had. That's the kind of people I had around me. Yeah, that first tour was it definitely woke me up. But Kosovo was it was the slaughterhouse, man. There was mass graves. It was the first time I'd smelt, burning flesh, regularly. A lot of fucked up situations. Realizing how small I was. But I remember I'll never forget the day that we liberated it. There's a lot of stuff, but I've got no camera footage of it. We didn't have camcorders really with us back then. It wasn't an easy thing to buy, not in the wages we were on. But I remember, fuck it, honestly, man, whether I'm right in thinking this, but I remember looking in the place and thinking there must be 500,000 people in the street, just like the World Cup, you know?
Yeah.
And they're just grabbing you and they're kissing you, and you're like, fucking hell, man, you know? Seeing the actual gravity of the difference that we'd made, and remembering back, that's Europe. It's part of
Yeah.
Europe.
Yeah.
And you're like, this isn't some fucking swamp back piece of shit dust bowl. Do you know what I mean? This is actually a part of home.
Yeah.
So it felt really powerful. But after that first tour, I had, I think I had 3 weeks off, and then I went back and did another tour straight away. That second tour, yeah, that second tour was that was different. That was strange and weird. There were still killings going on. We were having to police the place a little bit differently, but there was a lot. We were on a hilltop location in Petch, at the top of a fucking, I don't know, a ridge line, maybe a mile and a half road that went up this undulating kind of hillside. It was beautiful. And I watched every night for a fortnight as they systematically, ethnically cleansed each building, each house, and burned the families out of them for a fortnight. And the whole town was on fire. It was a weird thing to be watching. And then in the morning, because they had nowhere to go, well, they would rape the mum and the daughters first. Whether or not they killed the father or whatever they did with them, but the families would end up pushing a cart up our dirt track next to where we were, because they were going to live in the woods, because there's nowhere to live now.
And you say, like you say, it's just fucking Europe.
It's insane. So yeah, they were coming up to us and begging us to go and kill them. They were saying, "Please, will you go and kill those bad people? You know, the fucking enemy." And because they're raping me every night, and they're gonna kill my mum and kill my brother, and I'm like, "Fuck it, I want to go and slaughter them. I want to go and fucking slaughter these cunts." And we were talking in between us because we were told we couldn't do anything. But I remember having conversations with a few of the boys. We're like, "Look, we could just take a wander off, you know, take care of business." And we were serious about it. And you're like, "You can't be doing this shit, boys," you know. The older boys saying, "Look, yeah, justifiable. You get caught, you're going to fucking jail, man."
Yeah.
You
Rules
know,
of engagement and all that.
yeah. So, you know,
And
but
that's
then,
the frustrating side of it as well.
it's fucking awful. But
You know, I never did Kosovo. Right? I did Bosnia twice. And the second tour of Bosnia was fucking.
Bosnia was worse in some cases. It's the same
Well,
shit.
by the second, you know, 90. I mean, I went there in 95. Before 95, it was really, really bad. When I was there in 95, it was bad. And sometimes it's not what you'd seen. It's the aftermath you've seen. Like you know that had happened there, and it had happened yesterday, and fuck all you can do about it. You know, and that was the annoying thing. And then we changed from UN to the multinational brigade and started fighting back. And that's when the Serbs went, "Oh, sorry, didn't really mean to do it. Fucking too late. You fucked."
We'd,
You know,
we'd that hilltop and pitch. We'd a piece of intel came over the net one night. Paddy took it, and I was my deck commander. And he's like, "Look, basically, the words that they said was terrorist activity in your location imminent. You know, just fucking stand by, basically." So we were stood to for fucking 9 hours. And you're like, fuck all happening, you know. But it's like, still, and you're like, I don't want to let my guard down even a little bit. But you've got to get back to kind of management of self, of harbour location, all that shit. Routine has to fucking establish itself eventually, because you've got a job to do. And you can't just stay awake for fucking, 90 hours. But 5 in the morning, dusk, and they knew the rules of engagement. Like the Serbs, they knew them. And there was a family behind us in a rubble. You ever see the buildings? Like you get them in Yorkshire, you get them all over the countryside in Scotland, but like old farmhouse buildings they're by stone, like a button bend, but it's got no roof.
yeah,
It's like a derelict old building. It was like one of them, and there was a family living there. I think it was about 6 or 7 women, 5 or 6 kids, and a couple of men. They kind of took that over as because it'd been burned out. we didn't bother them, they didn't bother us. And they used them as a shield and started laying down suppressing fire to us for about an hour and a half. And we just had to sit there and take it. That was difficult. Because not only are you like, is this my old fucking ticket out here? Am I dead tonight? Well, this morning. I can't fire back. Just forget being a soldier, the basic human like, fuck you, motherfucker. I mean, you hit me, I will fucking hit you. You can't even do anything. So we called the QRF in and eventually got up to our location and then they fucked off. There was like 5 or 6 grenades chucked, just getting fucking pot shots taken constantly, and you're like, fucking motherfuckers. But if we'd returned fire and just ricocheted or hurt one of those kids, or it'd be on fucking Sky News or CNN, and then you're fucked. But they were very smart. A couple of weeks after that, a couple of weeks after that,
cunts, I think they're called, really.
Yeah, but I was never in. Not in Kosovo. I was never really in a big firefight. I've got no kind of war stories, kind of like I'm blazing into battle and shit like that. But I'm not special forces. I'm not claiming to be anything big or dramatic. But that was pretty fucking wild shit for an 18-year-old kid to be in. A couple of weeks after that, we'd down tools in that location, and I think we were getting ready to go home actually. I remember two SIGs were coming in to take over, and we were handing over locations and stuff like that because it was all set up. We were just handing over vehicles and shit. And I remember driving. A lot of the vehicles were getting put down to a place. I remember a place called Emden for some reason, like a dockyard, because everything got shipped over.
Yeah.
And we were in a convoy. It was about 6 vehicles. And there was no sanction stops, no, we weren't fucking planning any kind of fun or anything, but all the vehicles kept a mad stop. It was a dusty fucking bowl and ungodly road. And I just remember that feeling like, this isn't right. Just fucking classic, like, I ain't got a fucking good feeling about this. And I looked out and I couldn't see anything, and then I heard a massive explosion. We fucking all got out, and this fucking guy's walking towards us carrying this fucking weird looking object, and I was like, motherfucker. And I raised my fucking rifle up at him just as I clocked what he was carrying. He wasn't carrying what I thought might have been some kind of device, because it was a mess. It just didn't look right. It was his body of his 12-year-old blown up son. And right up to us, he stepped on a landmine, came right up to us, and he just crumbled in front of me. And I just fucking looked at him. I was like, the fuck, man. The kid's eyes were still open. I was blooded. It was a fucking torturous mess. But the fact is, because he was a kid, I wanted to do something. Like I knew he was dead, or he was dying in front of us. But I just remember thinking, we need to fucking do something here. We fucking need to do something. Whether we set up a perimeter, or we give him first aid, or we give him, I don't care, give him food, water, give him hold his hand. And they ordered us to leave him at the side of the road. And we go back in the vehicles and we drove off. And I remember thinking, you motherfuckers, this is not what I signed up for.
No.
And nobody ever brought it up. Ever. Not once.
I don't know what I'd have done in that situation.
I know what I did. I know what I did. I went pitch black, dark, violent. For 10 years. I got that bad. They put me into the boxing team, and they're like, you've got issues, Steve. And I was like, I don't give a fuck. I was constantly getting arrested, constantly fucking back chatting, constantly getting put up in ROPs and charges. It became a fucking joke in the end. I did 2 tours of Iraq after that, and I knew I was tumbling. Last tour of Iraq, I mean, Iraq was much of the same, just a different situation. I was a bit more aware then. I was a detachment commander as well, a bit more mature. I was in charge of guys instead this time. And, I just put them first. I was like, fuck the army, fuck everything. I'll do my job to the peak of my ability. But my job is to make sure none of these fuckers go home a mess, or worse. But and there was some fucking funny stories out in Iraq as well. But I knew I needed to get out of the Green Army, but I got into fucking a bit of a heated discussion with two RMPs, and I was seeing this girl back home and from Fleet in Hampshire, and she'd give me the old Dear John, and I was like, fucking bitch. Slammed the fucking mouse down on the desk, and this was like, big fucking camps out in Iraq. It was a whole different fucking game out there. Fucking bitch. And these two RMPs were like, oi! I was like, fuck you, an old cunt. And they're like, fucking. I was like, oh, we'll fucking have it. And that was it. Bang, bang. And I'm like, instantly, I'm like, I'm going to regret this. So next morning, couple Beedie, OC's orders. Yep, that's it. Right, I'll be over in a minute. And they just fucked me over, I'd just come off full screw board. So that week I got my 2 tapes, and they're like, right, you've just been promoted to full screw. That's not happening. We're also going to reduce you in the ranks back down to fucking signal, so private. And we're going to RTU you back to the UK, and you're going to get docked in wages. As he's speaking, I'm taking my tape off, and I fucking threw it at him. I was like, fuck you, you cunt. I was like, I am sick of this shit. I have poured my fucking soul for a decade into this world, this life. And I do one little thing, because they actually spoke to me like a piece of shit. I'm ad-libbing it a little bit, but they were very rude to me. That's what they were.
Yeah.
And I didn't take. They can speak to me however they want. Don't be a cunt. Don't be rude to me. And I wasn't in charge of myself very well. One, I'm in a war zone for the fucking fourth year in a row. I've done back-to-back tours. I'm knackered. I'm fatigued. I haven't had a fucking cheeseburger in a fucking year. I've just been dumped. Things aren't going. And I'm like, fucking hell. I had I think I had $4,500 in the bank, which for a squad is a lot of money.
Yeah, it is. What the hell?
I didn't get to finish tour with my mates, with the boys. And within 19 hours, I think, I was back home in Banff in the boozer from being in a war zone. No debrief, nothing.
Dangerous.
So, in the space of 9 weeks, I'd married a woman, had my ear bitten off in a fight with the police, got arrested, went AWOL, and then I was back down in Bulford with a pre-made family with 3 kids at 23 years old.
Fucking hell, that was a shock for them.
It was a big shock.
Welcome back. Who was these lot?
Aye, it was and it was an absolute shit show from day one. I didn't want to leave. I wanted help. I didn't know what depression was, PTSD, mental health. That's not a word. We didn't know those. I didn't know the literature, the vernacular of those words. I was just a fucking squaddy, man. I was just a soldier that wanted things to get back to the way they were. But I think deep down inside, I was like, I know they're not. So, but I'm not going to get into a lot of the stuff there, but I had a catastrophe of getting out of the army. In the end,
sorry to interrupt again, but
No.
it wasn't that long back. That wasn't that long ago, and the army didn't. I've seen it. Luckily I never experienced it, but I've seen it how other people were treated, and I'm probably guilty of treating them the same way. As soon as somebody gets, fucking hell, I was in the shit. I did 27 years and I was a full screw when I got out. I wasn't exactly like squeaky clean. You know what I mean? Fucking wasn't.
the best of us, aren't we?
It's not my story, Charles. You get like somebody gets tarred with fucking hell, he's a fucking handful, he's a grenade, right? Whether it's a social grenade,
Social hand grenade, yeah, I got that a few times.
And that's now looking back at that, that's thinking, hang on a minute, he's got a fucking issue.
Yeah.
Let's try
What's
and
going
find
on,
out what
dude?
the issue is.
Yeah.
But what you do in the military is you go, here's a social hand grenade, fucking step back. And you fucking, I wouldn't say you run away from him, but you stay away from him. And nobody approaches them to say, hey, mate, you all right?
Yeah.
Because they just don't, whether we're scared of it or whether that's the way it was, obviously I joined the army a fair bit earlier than you. And in the guys before me were, there was no mental health out like that. It was like, fucking man up.
Yeah.
Fucking man up. Just crack on with it.
Yeah.
Even though everybody has suffered it to a certain degree. When I went for counselling, I said to the doctor, I says, when we leave the military, all of us are fucked. And she looked at me, smiled, and just went, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, something wrong with a lot of you. And I was like, that makes me feel much better.
It does, doesn't it? Because then you're not so much of a special case.
No, yeah. There's like, I was doing an assessment today, for example, and I had to write down about show an example of somebody who a trigger for self-harm and suicide, or somebody who could be susceptible to it. And I used the idea of people leaving the military, losing self-identity and community, being self-isolated and stuff like that, and then went into it that way. But it's true, and I didn't appreciate that until a long time after I'd left the military. A long time, and I think a lot of guys don't appreciate that. I don't feel it. There's that sudden, that there's the rush when you leave the military, and some people find it hard straight away. Some people just run into Civvy Street, fucking headless chicken, like I did, and thinking everything's going to be rosy, and it's not. I'm not saying that happens to fucking everyone, because it doesn't. But I think we all, to a certain extent, suffer from that, like they say, the loss of community, the loss of your family.
Yeah,
in commas or whatever.
Identity crisis, mate, isn't it?
Yeah. But I'd say 75, 80% of us can handle it. And there's that small percentage that can't, and it causes issues. And then of that 80% or 75%, 80% of people who can handle it, later on, by between 5 and 12 years is when it kicks in for them. They're like, fucking hell, when they start reminiscing and stuff like this, and whatever, I don't know what the reason is, but there is a thing there between 5 and 12 years where people start to develop mental ill health because of their service. I don't know why it is. Something I'm going to look a bit more into.
It takes. I studied this stuff because I when I came out, I was in a very, very, very dark space in life.
Did you feel as though you got any help from the military at all?
Fuck me, I got none.
Or they just couldn't wait to get rid of you?
They tried to give me some sessions, but basically it was judgment.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to say earlier. You've said it in a much quicker, succinct, and exact way. Yeah. I just talk bollocks, like I said earlier.
No, not at all, mate. It's when I came out, I knew I didn't, like you said there about self-isolation. Like we say these words, like self-isolation. My experience of that, and that's what we all do. We minimize it. We dilute its true nature. I was walking around the planet like a fucking completely hollowed out, marrowless fucking void of an individual, because I actually believed, not just thought, believed that I was the only human being on earth that felt this way. Because it removes you from yourself. You don't know who the fuck you are, where you are, why you are. The concept of why, that whole I am, you got a broken finger, I am going to go to the fucking doctors because I am in pain. There's no place to locate this thing that's inside of me, and yet it's fucking everywhere. The night terrors, man. Fuck, man. They were fucking terrifying. I'm like, there's something wrong with me. So I need to fucking deal with this. Oh, there's nobody to deal with me. And then you get like, oh, we can get you on this list. It's 18 months. You're like, yeah, I'll be gone by then. I will be dead by then. And that brings me up to my son was just born, and you know, I've never actually told anyone this, but I won't go into the actual words. But when he was born, the weirdest thing for me happened is they don't prepare men for this. He's born. He came out of his mum and he opened his eyes and looked at me, and I was like, mate, fucking changed forever. The love I felt for that fucking bairn. And then he gets wrapped up, and then the midwives leave, and she gets up and she goes away to have a shower, and oh, it's just me and the kid. And I was like, whoa. Nobody prepped me for this. What the fuck? There was no QBOs, nothing. That's the most vulnerable I've ever been in my entire existence. Because that kid is totally dependent on me. And I was that kid who didn't have a father. And I always promised if I become a dad, I will not fucking fail that bairn. Here I am at the most unhealthy moment in my existence. Broken, battered by war, abuse, self-abuse, alcohol fucking issues, rage, terror pouring through me, war just dripping out me. And there's this beautiful, precious, beautiful brown-eyed boy. Within the first 2 minutes of him just sitting there, but me and him, I made a vow to him. I basically said to him, look, kiddo, your dad is a fucking disaster, an absolute wreck. And I am on the verge of wanting to fucking end it every second of the day. But for you, I will not. I will figure this fucking thing out. I will beat this fucker for you and for me. And I did. But by fucking Christ, did I have to pay the price for it. It's cost me a marriage, career, relationships, friendships. I've been mocked publicly. I've been joked at, laughed at, thrown out of pubs because people think I'm weird because I do public speaking. I've written about it. I've stood on stages. I've done radio, press, TV. I've raised millions for charity, and I do all this stuff. And still motherfuckers look at me and go, "You're a piece of shit. You're that guy that came home, a fucking weirdo. You left town, fucked off to the army, came home thinking you're something special now." And you're like, if you had any concept of the fight I have to have, even now, like, honestly, when me and his mum separated, like she was unfaithful, and I was let's just fucking get this out there. I am not one of those guys that's like, yeah, she fucked me over. We both fucked up. It's a fucking marriage of two. I was a cunt at the beginning. I turned my life around. I was a half-decent husband for a good decade. I didn't drink for 10 years. And at the end, she'd had enough of me. For some reason, people change. She was a cunt to me at the end. So it balances itself out. I am not going to stand here on ceremony and say, oh, she cheated on me. It's like, I was a piece of shit at the beginning of my marriage. She was a fucking piece of shit at the end. We both made mistakes. She's away.
Life happens.
Life fucking happens. But I'm not going to be that guy that sits there and complains about how things could have been and whatever. My job is to be the best version of myself. So I came up with this thing called unspoken wounds, which I would start to talk about them. These unspoken things. Because it's the unspoken things that get compressed. The things that we don't share and speak. Now, by the way, I need to say as well, I'm not an advocate that everyone should be out there talking about their mental health. I don't think that's healthy. I think some people are, because I think it's like saying, should the whole world be out there talking about sexual freedom? It's like, well, no, because some of us are introverted and we like that to be private. I don't want to be talking about my diet or my gym or my love for certain types of movies or, you don't like football. It's like, no, I like rugby. I think the world needs to be okay with, if you want to talk about it, that's perfectly great. It should be healthy and great to talk about it. But I don't think the world should be pressurized into being made to feel like they have to talk about it because it's such a big deal now. But
yes, right now, I get what you mean now.
See what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. I mean, talking and walking and exercise is the best thing you can fucking do for it.
Yeah.
but like, yeah, don't force it on other people, or don't be expected to drag it out of someone.
Yeah, just because work's decided to have a mental health day and, bring in a speaker like me or whatever, somebody else, and, now everyone, share your stories. It's like, whoa, 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 no, this is not what this is about. People have their privacy,
Yeah.
but just letting people know that it's totally cool to talk about it. One-on-one, one-to-many, that's fine. But yeah, that's what I was getting at there. But in all the years of like trying to, I had a professor asked me to come and work with him years ago. And he said to me, he's like, how the fuck did you manage to beat this thing? He says, you got no help. He says, not only did you beat it, you're out there fucking talking about it. He says, you're teaching at universities. He's like, how the fuck did you do this? I was like, I didn't have a fucking option, mate. It was necessity. If I didn't fucking figure this obstacle out, task in hand, right? This is the thing now. It's not a hill. It's not a fucking BPFA. It's not a fucking CFT. It's not a weapon handling skill. It's not fucking map reading. It's not fucking river crossing, night navigation. It's not fucking any of this. It's PTSD. Right, let's get to the fucking core of it. And I read every book I could get my hand on. I started reading white papers. I went to university and I was working with the teams there. I was doing learning about, I didn't even know that it's an actual fucking, it's brain damage. And I was like,
Yeah.
PTSD's brain damage. I was like, holy shit. Then I started studying brain chemistry, myelin, the neuropsis of the brain, how things interwove, the interconnectivity of like how neurons fire. And I was studying this shit for years. Then I went into philosophy. Then I started studying Confucius, Plato, fucking, all the fucking greats. Then I started going into Eastern philosophy. There's so much fucking stuff out there. And what I realised is this stuff's recorded back to the Roman Empire. It was just given different names. And I'm like, this isn't new information. This is like fucking old stuff. I'm like, what the fuck? So I started to look at it a different way. It became an obsession. And there's a really nice way of looking at something, like a problem or an issue in your life, whether it's your marriage, relationship, work, a health scare, whatever the fuck it is, right? The Greek word for character is chisel. Now, a sculptor uses a chisel. He doesn't create anything. All he does is he slowly chips away at all the non-essentials to reveal what was already there. And that was the basis of how I got healthy. Because I realised I was using blame, self-hurt, jealousy, excuses, self-detrimental fucking attitudes towards things. And then I came across a guy called Viktor Frankl, who had survived the Holocaust in Auschwitz. Now, I'd been to Dachau. He'd been in Dachau as well. He survived Auschwitz. He lost all of his family. His wife, his kids, his parents, his grandparents were all slaughtered in front of him. Hell on earth. That's as bad as it could get as a human being on this planet. And yet, he found meaning in it. And I thought, if this fucker can find meaning in that, then what fucking excuse do I have? Because that trumps anything I've ever been through. And he took the Greek word meaning, which is logos or logo, and he created a new type of psychiatry. And he went to America. He survived. He went to America and he created a thing called logotherapy. Revolutionized the DMS. He revolutionized how people looked at things. And it kind of gave me the first foundation of my own pathway, which is when I started to really kind of take register of all the things that had happened in my life. I was a chronic people pleaser. I lacked healthy boundaries. There was so much stuff going on beyond PTSD. I was like, fuck, PTSD, that's nothing. I've got all these other things to work through now. And it became like this odyssey, like this adventure through, like, okay, so this is why I'm here. I'm here to actually figure me out, not figure the world out. which is why I do all the speaking, the coaching, the training, the writing, the vlogging, all this mad stuff. It's to try and chip away at all the non-essential parts that aren't working. So I discovered that there's an idea called the obstacle is the way. It's Greek philosophy, right? If there's something in front of you and you cannot get through it, over it, or around it, the answer is within the problem. The problem holds the answer. You can't come at it with some fancy idealistic thing. The problem holds the solution that you're looking for. Your job is to figure that out. And that's when I started writing based on something called The Wound is the Way. And that's where I work from. There's wisdom in your wounds. And that's what I do.
Okay, now that's deep.
It's deep, but it's not.
You know what? I don't know what the fuck you say to reply to that. I mean, my take on that is that you know, I'm trying to phrase this so I don't sound like a dickhead. That you can look inside yourself,
Mhm.
use your experience, doesn't matter how traumatic it is,
Mhm.
to kind of heal yourself.
Yeah, like I mean, even a surface level, something like so. In the past, in my relationships, when somebody would say to me, "Oh, you're such a fucking arsehole," no, I'm not. You know, I do everything for you. And today's me, you're an arsehole. Maybe I am being an arsehole. Okay, what if she's right? Okay, step back. Was I being an arsehole? Possibly. Actually, if I think about it, I probably was. If I think about what she's thinking, shit, yeah, I was. I was. Yeah, babe, I'm sorry. I was being a bit of an idiot. I was a bit out of turn there. I apologise. How can I make it better? And they're like, what? What the fuck just happened here? Because if I want to be in a friendship, a relationship, or whatever that might be, work or anything, the only thing I bring to it is the value that makes their experience better.
Yeah.
Because if anything else, it's only about self-indulgement.
Yeah, but in that scenario, I wouldn't say counter that, but I would say no. So that's got to be a two-way street.
It
So
has
you
to be a
can't,
two-way street.
yeah, you can't do it all on your own.
No, but then there's whole different sides to this. For example, a really hard one for me was I had too much expectations of people. Why aren't they doing a bit more? Why are they behaving like this? Don't they know like how much I care about them? I love them, and it's fucking exhausting living like that. You
Yeah,
know, oh, you didn't turn up on time. I don't give a fuck. It's your time. I'll do what I want to do. You know,
yeah.
no
No,
expectations.
I get that bit about the almost relying on other people too much and expectations and stuff like that. You can't, and I think that's a weird thing that maybe I've spoken to a few guys who've left the army who suffer from that as well. That because when we were in the military, we did rely on each other, but it was an unwritten rule.
Mm,
It was second nature,
yeah.
and stuff like that. And then when you do come out into the big wild world, that's not second nature. It's
No,
not gonna,
it's the
and
opposite.
you do suffer. But then I spoke to a guy called Tim Davies. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's an ex RAF flight instructor,
Yeah. Okay.
and I do keep mentioning him on this podcast because he's fucking great. I love him. He said to me, he goes when he left, he ended up getting cancer and stuff like that, and the doctor had said to him, "Look, what you're suffering is that you're so regimented, and you came out into chaos, and
Mhm.
you can't. Chaos is unregimental. It's unregimented. You can't control it, and the
Yeah.
world is chaos. You've got to expect chaos, and you've got to hold it and take it. And one of the things I know a lot of us who leave the military suffer with is what you just mentioned then about time, about being late.
Mm.
And some guys cannot even now can't abide it. I'm
Oh,
not keen on it myself.
I'm like even now, you know, early to me is half past before. On time is 15 minutes before. You know.
But with him, he came up with his own answer to that was, from now on, I set my clock 7 minutes late. He goes, and half the time I turn up and I'm still there before everybody else. He says, just sit back and accept the chaos. No fucker's going to die.
Yeah.
You know, just
Like,
because
yeah.
you're late. You know, you've just got to almost seep it in and just relax into it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's, I suppose everybody's got their own journey. Everybody's got a different story, and everybody's got a different way of feeling with it. And with the podcast that I do, I try to show people that there's different ways of doing things. You know, and no one who's been on it has discussed the way you did, like basically fixing the fucking self. You know, you do get a lot of. There's different types of veterans. And I think you mentioned earlier, you touched on it earlier as well, and other guys have mentioned it. There's the woe is me veteran,
Yeah.
you know, and there's the entitled veteran. And as much as I don't want to admit it, these fuckers exist.
Of course
You
they do.
know, I was in the army, you've got a fucking, you know, this, that, and the other. I mean, somebody said to me the other day, thank you for your service. I went, you'd have to thank me, they fucking paid me.
Yeah.
You know, and he never got the joke. But I feel uncomfortable if, you know, to me, it's a very, very American thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Somebody
And
said that
then,
to me yesterday, actually.
yeah.
"Oh, thank you." And I was like, I cracked a joke.
Yeah, it's
It's
uncomfortable.
a weird thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and then you look at the difference between the Americans and the UK veterans and stuff like that. That
Yeah.
you know they get treated differently, but you know I've spoke to a couple of American veterans, and they don't get treated fucking that much differently to us. Everyone
No,
thinks
they
that the
get treated
government
like shit as
provides
well.
everything. Yeah, everyone thinks you know if they're going to walk through an airport, and everyone's going to stand up and clap and that. They don't. You know, everyone thinks they're going to get free food. They don't.
No,
Everyone thinks the government's going to look after them forever. They fucking don't.
no, they
You know,
don't.
I think they look after their veterans more than our government looks after ours. But
Yeah.
you know, in the end, civvies look at it as it's a fucking job. You know, if I worked for Asda for 35 years and left Asda, I don't expect Asda to follow me out and do this, that, and the other. But that's a job.
Yeah.
The military is a way of life. It's like you say, you joined at 16, I joined at 16. They're your formative years.
Yeah.
They're what makes you a man. Not the 13, 14, 15. Your adult psyche is
Yeah.
formed then.
That's right.
That's everything. And it's that. And then all of a sudden, you're on your own. Like you said, you know, yourself. We probably discussed about self-isolation and stuff like that. And we are different.
No, definitely.
And whether that's good or bad or not, you know, everyone brings something to a party. I normally like to take everything away from the party. But well, I don't get invited.
It's not a bad thing, mate.
No, it's I'm better than I used to be. But it is this. I don't think there's any one answer. There's no like there's like you said earlier. There's no there's no pamphlet for it. You know, there's no one's written the rules. Everyone's got a different journey, and everyone's got to find their own way. But I think with the help of people and like you said, there's in a way there's far too much information out there, and there's far too much pressure on to talk about things openly. I do agree. Now I understand what you said. I do agree with that as well, because if you're suffering badly, the last thing you want to do is put on TikTok and some fucker like me is going, go and seek help, mate. It's all going to be great and stuff like this, because it fucking isn't.
No,
But
that's right. Yeah, we've got to be a bit realistic about things, you know.
Yeah.
And I've checked myself a few times over the years. You know, that whole sometimes you can be so up in your own greatness, you know, like I'm doing really well, things are going good. That's not a bad thing. Fucking right on that, you know, your oppo's doing good, your mate's doing good. But you in your head, you cannot see your own self-deception. And sometimes we're in such a good space and you're just in that momentum. But then somebody who you were like is down here and you meet them up here where you're at, you forget to meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
And you've lost them then. You know, that they're just not going to trust you anymore. I've learned that the hard way to it doesn't matter where the fuck you are. You have to meet that person where they're at. And right now the world's dog shit, dark. They don't trust themselves, never mind anyone else. And you have to see all the stuff I just spoke about a minute ago. In real world setting, I don't talk to people like that, all that big fancy big kind of talk. It's really like I just shut up and listen to them. And
That's what I found was the best thing for me. There was the
yeah.
counter that just went.
Yeah,
I went.
that offload of shit.
Yeah.
And what I learned is their answer is within themselves. You're just kind of guiding them to it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't let them self manifest it, it's not theirs. Yeah, you can give them tips and advice and give them a wee nudge here and there, but it has to come from them, and it's simple shit.
No, you've just reminded me of something my counsellor said. She goes, "You've just sat there for the last 40 minutes and self-diagnosed yourself for 40 minutes and came up with your own solution and treatment." And I was like, "Did I?" She went,
Yeah.
I don't even know why I'm here. I was like, "Fucking hell."
But that is the nature of help. See,
but that can be a dangerous thing as well.
It can be. I mean, how
what I'm scared of in my situation, because like I spoke about before we started doing this, was where people have started approaching me, right? And like I always say to them, I'm not a fucking therapist, right? I don't know if I'm giving you the right decision, the wrong advice, or what. It's up to you to listen to, the shite that comes out of my mouth, but for you to make your own plan from it. And I don't, it scares me sometimes that if I say the wrong fucking thing to someone or give them the wrong advice, that it's going to make them worse.
No. Listen, I'm going to tell you right now, you won't do that because your nature won't let you do that. You've got a good nature to yourself there, Frankie boy. You can, the nature of someone who wants to help, and you're not doing it to manipulate or to take from. Your nature is to give. And you cannot hurt someone from that standpoint, mate. If they do anything after the fact that you've been in their world for a day or two or whatever, and then they go and do something, that's not on you. They are, whether they're not in the best of health, that is still their responsibility.
I mean, you must have experienced it as well. I mean, I've got a friend who's doing his degree to be a mental health nurse, and he's coming right at the end of it. Mm-hmm. And he keeps warning me, so look, you can't fucking just keep giving yourself to everyone because you've got to stop sometimes.
You can't.
You've got to be able to step back and just relax a little bit.
Don't.
This sounds like I'm trying to make this podcast about me now. It's fucking, and I'm not.
No. You know what I mean? I've been doing this for a while, mate. This is usually what happens. You cannot fill anyone from an empty cup. Right. You've ever heard that old question like, "Oh, are you a glass half full or a glass half empty kind of person?" Yeah. Right? What would you say?
I used to be a glass half empty. Well, the glass was fucking empty, especially with beer. I used to be a glass half empty guy, and now I don't think I am.
Right.
I couldn't say for sure.
But everybody misses the trick. It's refillable.
Dickhead.
It's refillable, mate.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's empty or full. The fucker's refillable.
Yeah.
So are we. We're gonna get hurt. Life doesn't give a fuck about any of us.
I like that.
That is what's so good about it. I've got this weird thing.
I'm going to use that. I'm stealing that.
Please use it, man. All pain, all hurt, all anguish, all internal demons, all self-pity, all stuff like that is just unmanifested light. That's all it is, man. Now, there's the other side to me, which I usually keep awake, which is the big caper in me, the big kid. Mate, I fucking live to laugh. Mate, honestly, from top to bottom every day, I just want to giggle. I like to fucking laugh through life because it is fucking so heavy and serious, man. I get to the point actually if I'm out with friends and that, and I've had usually on red wine, we've had a good meal and stuff, and I get me. I'm like, And I'll be like, here, am I being too loud? They're like, no, you're fine. I'm like, I'm just checking in. Because you have to have some
Yeah.
fucking fun. You have to have
Yes, you
fun,
do.
man. You know? Right. You know, it's easy for me to kind of blap on a bit. I'll be a bit honest here. Like, the last few years have been tough with my son. He's not conducted himself particularly well the way I would have hoped he had done, and he's done some things I'm not proud of him. And I was fucking tormenting myself, you know. And then I was like, he's 19 now. I'm like, hang on a minute, he's a grown bloke. He's still a young kid, but he's not a child. And I was like, I'd done 2 tours by his age. He's still complaining about all this stuff, and you know, I don't get. And I'm like, do you know what? I'm just gonna fucking do something I've never done before. I'm gonna be a selfish cunt and put me first because I've never done it. And I stepped back and I just went, I love you, son. Doors open. Anything you need, I'm here. But you're being a little cunt right now, so I'm gonna let you go and be a cunt if it takes you a few years.
Yeah.
I love you, buddy, and I will never see anybody hurt you. But you're doing this to yourself. I'm out. Not out of your life, but just out of the way.
No, I
I
know
tell
what
you
you
what,
mean.
mate.
Did you ever use that phrase though? When I was your age, I'd been
Oh,
on to it.
yeah,
Fucking hell, how many times I've said
mate,
that?
I actually heard myself come out and I was like, fuck me, I've done it, my father. And
Oh, right. Oh, when I was your age, I
well,
had 2 kids. I'd been on tour. I'd been awarded fucking medals.
when I were a lad,
You're
when
whinging.
I were a lad,
Yeah.
would what down pit for a fortnight.
Yeah.
But I tell you, mate, right? The weirdest fucking thing, because I'd always had this passion or an idea. When I came out of the army, I wasn't happy in Civvy Street. I had an okay career, I did quite well, but I was like, there's something burning inside of me. I don't know what it is. And it was, I wanted to have my own business. Not be rich and wealthy, but just, I fucking hate authority over me. I do, I hate it.
Yeah. Be your own boss.
Yeah. So I was like terrified actually starting my own business. And then my dad passed away and I was like, right, I'm not married anymore. I'm not with him. I'm not with the last I was with, the girlfriend. I'm like, we're finished. Son's being a fucking, I was like, fucking hell. I thought, you know what? I never put me first, like ever. And the burning desire to leave my job, because I worked offshore and drilling rigs for 15 years, and I hated it in the end. I was like, this is fucking dog shit. And I went, fuck it, I'm going to go for it. So I sold up all the things that I didn't need anymore. I moved from my town in Banff into the city of Aberdeen to be close to where I wanted to grow my business. And for a year and a half now, I have done nothing but fucking soar. Made really new great friends, incredible clients in business. I'm getting what I asked for in terms of like pricing and stuff. I'm learning things. Then the TED Talk experience kind of came my way, and I got that, and I was like, fucking hell. Published a book.
How the fuck did you get that?
I applied.
Because I mean, people who don't realise TED Talks are quite a big thing.
It's really hard to get.
Yeah, it's a really. I suppose most people have only ever come across a TED Talk because it's propped up on one of their YouTube fucking, you know, clips or whatever.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say I religiously watch them, but I've watched quite a few, and they're always really, really good. But they don't bring on just anyone. You know, I mean, I'm not going to write in next week and go, "Can I come and do?"
Yeah,
That's not going to happen.
it's a weird experience actually. I mean, you know, there's other stuff going on as well. I've got a documentary that we're filming. There's loads of interesting shit getting done. The podcast is coming out as well. But yeah, just a year of actually saying, do you know that thing where people do and they keep talking about a thing, talking about it and talking about it, and nothing happens?
You
It's
just
not because they don't
procrastinate.
want it. It's not because they don't want it. They don't believe in themselves. I did not believe in myself enough to shut the fuck up and just go and do it. And I heard myself, I'm like, I have been talking about this for years. People must be fucking drained listening to me pop on about my shit. So I did the old fashioned thing. I moved away. I didn't tell anyone. I just went and did it. And my mates were like, hey, mate, I haven't heard from you in about 3 months. What the fuck? I'm busy, mate. Then the book came out. Then the talks. Then the work. Then the business. in the TED talk, and they're like, Stevie, what the fuck's going on? I was like, I was sick of my own bullshit. I was.
Yeah.
I'd got to that level. I'd helped so many people. I'd done accolades. You know, there were accolades, but they were all for everyone else. Raised money for charity, did a TV spot, radio, magazines, blah, blah. And I'm like, none of this is mine. None of this is mine. I can't actually say that it belongs to me. And I was like, oh my God, even with my career, I was like, I can't pass it down to my son when I leave. You know, I can't download the knowledge and go, here you go, son. Here's 30 years of or 20 years of hard-earned experience in an industry that is now yours. It doesn't work like that. But if I build a business or a system that's mine, that I can hand over.
Yeah.
And I just got tired of my own shit. You know, you watch these lads on TV. You know your fucking all the other ends, your Foxes and all that stuff. You know, they've just taken their skill set and put it in front of a camera, modified it to an extent. Genius.
Yeah.
Why can't we do the same? We can, because I'm doing it.
You're not the first person to say that. The last guy I interviewed on Sunday just gone, more or less said the same thing. You know, he's now going to go and concentrate on building his own empire, if you want to call it that way, his own business. Because he's done all the things like what you said there. He's so much for charity, so much for this, you know, and now he wants to build a business. He wants to make money. And I mean, that sounds selfish. It's
no,
not.
It's not. It's right.
It really
it's
isn't.
Right.
He wants to know that he can excel at that as well. He's excelled at everything else he's done. You know, I mean, fucking hell, he really has. It was a guy called Mark Ormrod. You know him?
Oh, I know Mark. Mark's brilliant,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, he fucking.
Yeah. He's a stand-up guy.
Literally, I'm talking to him and I'm just sat there going, I'm sorry, mate, I'm a fanboy. I'm a fanboy. You know what I mean?
I take the piss out of him.
He's amazing.
Brilliant. He's just done that because he was moaning one day. He was online. He wasn't moaning. He was online speaking about something one day, and I was like, "Oh, you're a stand-up guy," and nobody else got it. Obviously, he's on his fucking legs. So nobody else got it, and it's just laughing emojis. But he's just done that. Is it Sunray?
No, he's done the truck pull.
No, I know he did the truck pull, but I know him and a bunch of other Marines got together.
I don't know if he was. I didn't know. He never mentioned Sunray. I watched Sunray with Tip. Oh shit! I'm trying to approach him as well to get him on a fucking podcast. Tip Cullen. Yeah.
That's right,
I didn't know Mark was involved with Sunray.
I think it might be another one that they've made then, because I know he's involved with Foxy and who's your guy from Keep Attacking? Fucking Bayonet Charge motherfucker. I can't remember. I forget some boys' names. I do know his name as well, so I apologise for that. But yeah, there's some guys doing great fucking shit.
Yeah.
Well, I won't say it on here, but we can have a chat offline, and I'll kind of fill you in on some of the stuff I've got going on. And there's opportunities, man, you know, but they don't just happen.
They don't just happen. You've got to fucking manifest them.
Honestly, man, I will not lie. I have to make choices these days for so because I own my own business and I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable. I've had to re-educate myself and go, yeah, you can't just go on holiday, Steve. You know, that 500 quid you might need for something in 8 weeks. So you actually can't have that luxury that you want, that you think that you earned. So it's back to super noodles for another 3 weeks. Oh, fucking hell. And then it's like, oh, you know, so at the start of the year, I told myself I wanted to make my health a priority because I'm 45 this year. My weight's starting to creep up. My blood pressure was spiking. I was like, fuck. I was like, I'm not young anymore. I am middle-aged.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah, honestly, right? But my brain still thinks I can run a fucking 8-minute fucking mile and a half. You know, I couldn't get out of fucking bed in 10 minutes these days. I've got to fucking stretch and do yoga before I snap myself in the morning. But I thought, well, where do I spend money and actually feel good about it? So I spent 1,400 quid on a year's gym membership to the nicest gym that's got all this stuff. And I was like, I've never done anything like this. Ever. Ever. Like, my car's only worth $2,000. I mean, like, I'm still driving secondhand pieces of shit because I'm like, I'm not spending a fortune. I've done all that shit. But a year's commitment to my health. And I thought, I can dig that kind of expenditure. So then I don't need to go and feel good about a mad night out, you know,
Yeah.
where I regret it the next day and I'm like, fuck's sake, hangovers at 44 are just monstrosities. So, like, I'll be in the gym for, 2 hours a day. And I mean, like, that's like a 35-minute session in the actual gym. 30 minutes, because I struggle anymore after that, as in, like, I get bored. Sauna, steam, jacuzzi, cold showers. Sauna, steam, jacuzzi, cold shower. And I repeat it. Then I come out, long cold shower, come out, sit in a fucking cafe, but have a cup of coffee, and I'm like, I feel fucking unbelievable. Like, see, after doing that for 4 or 5 days, for me anyway, I'm like, I don't think I've ever felt this clear and good, and and I do therapy. I've got a dear friend. She's from that Rock to Recovery. I use them.
Yeah.
I still go every now and again and get a little offload. My mates to the point where like, you never tell us anything anymore. I'm like, I don't need to. I come to you for friendship and how's things? How's the wife? Tell me everything. And it's improved my life by actually taking care of myself, being a selfish cunt, focusing on my business, stepping out of the way of my son and letting him fuck up, because failure is the best teacher.
Let him live. Yeah.
Let him live. Get the fuck out of his way. Take care of the things I said I was going to do. And I'm not telling anyone else to do this. I'm just saying that this is what worked for me. And I actually found myself going, holy shit. Like, I think I'm earning my life and not just expecting it. And that feels good.
Earning it, not just experiencing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
It's mine.
Yeah, it's mine. Frankie, that's pen. You fucking out of here.
Fucking write that down. Hang
Write that down. So, Frankie, where did you get the name for the book? Well, But yeah, you see all these guys doing great things, and for me anyway, I'm just like, I'm just going to say how it is. When you've done tours and you've fucking lost mates to suicide and you've seen shit like we've seen, and we're at the lower end, you got guys that are fucking Marines, paras, SF boys, and they're seeing 10 times what we see sometimes. But we all see our own level of shit. And you come out and you're like, what the fuck was all that for?
Yeah.
Fucking marriage is over and this is over and the career's not working. And you're like, the fuck am I? And you're just pouring everything out into the world. And you're like, when am I going to get mine? You've got to take it.
Yeah, you have. And on that, because we've had an hour and 50, I think we'll end it.
Mate,
So there isn't anywhere else to go, mate.
Sorry about that. Yeah, man, it's
no, it's all right.
I meant the coffin.
I'm going to cut that coffin bit out so it sounds. Oh yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Right, well, Steve, thanks for coming on the podcast and sharing your story and your advice as well. And it's fucking. I won't say it's made me think, because I was doing a podcast with a guy called Carl the other week, who's also like he does, he does gym and motivational stuff and everything like that. And I messaged him afterwards, said, "You've made me think," and he just the fucker. He just messaged me back and went, "Thinking's not doing." I thought, for fuck's sake, leave me alone. But he's right. And it just feeds on what you've just said there as well. Thinking's not doing. Do it.
It's true, man. There's more wisdom in going for a walk than there is in reading 10 books of philosophy.
Right, I'll end the recording there. Again, thanks for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
All right, buddy. No worries. Thank you so much, my man.
I hope you enjoyed that podcast. I enjoyed recording it. If you could just hit the like button, and also if you could subscribe and hit the notification bell, that'd be great, because it'll help the channel grow. The more people will see it, the bigger it'll get, and the more guests I can get on, and the more people I can talk to. Well, I hope you enjoyed it, like I said. Look forward to the next one. Hopefully it'll be out next week as normal. Bye-bye now.
Pull up a sandbag, swing that old lamp low. There's tales in the silence that only vets know. From deserts and jungles to skies far and wide, Frankie's pot's where the stories reside. Boots in the mud, hearts in the fray, letters from home that never could say what the eyes of a soldier remember at night, now told in a voice clear and right. So lean back, mate, let the stories flow. In Frankie's pod, the real ones show. With a laugh or a tear, we honor the brave. Every voice a memory we save. Pull up a sandbag, it's your turn to speak. Where silence once stood, now stories leak. A compass of memories, scarred but true. Each tale a tribute to what they've been through. Not just the glory, the pain speaks too, but in every word, their courage shines through. No medals here, just a mic and a name. But in this circle, it's all the same. A brother, a sister, a comrade in arms. Every tale told holds wisdom and charms. So lean back, mate, let the stories flow. In Frankie's pod, the real ones show. With a laugh or a tear, we honor the brave. Every voice and memory we save. Pull up a sandbag, it's your turn to speak. Where silence once stood, now stories leak. From dawn's early light to the eve's gentle sigh, their spirits live on in the stories that fly. Through struggles and triumphs they stand side by side. In Frankie's pod, where their hearts still abide. So here's to the ones who've walked through the fire. With every sandbag we lift them higher. In the warmth of this space, together we'll stand, sharing our tales hand in hand.